fire. Water will only make it spread.
We need the floor protein foam.
Just finish it off.
All right, get on the line. Tell dispatch we need hazmat to get as much foam out here as quickly as possible.
So the chemicals the tanker was carrying.
They burn clear. Invisible to the naked eye, but in the dark.
It's actually kind of pretty.
You guys? Little help?
Nothing beats a Jet2 holiday. So lock in next summer with just a £60 deposit per person. And spread the cost with our flexible monthly payments. Book now with Jet2 Holidays.
No, we are going to get right into this, and we're going to get right into it good and quick. Hello. The players are not back on the ice set at the Sapphires, and I'm slightly at a wonky angle, which is a bit odd. No, that's too far one way. What's happened there? There we. I'm far too close. Let's move the rig back just a smidgen. We'll move that forward as well. There we go. That's a little bit better. Volume appears to be coming through as well. Right, hi. We appear to be okay. As far as I'm aware, bits and pieces have gone out. And like I say, it's just a case of just keeping tabs on this as well, because look, we've got the most technological of solutions. Remember, follow along on the stream as well, and we'll keep rocking and rolling in here too. But I think we should probably, actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the right thing first, which is have the drink first and not try talking at the same time. That would probably be a really, really good plan. But I'm just going to nudge that forward just a smidgen. There we go, that's much better. Got more of the hockey shelf in there, and there's the puck, of course, as well. Either way, let's get down to it. Guys, gals, and the gender fluid and all beyond the binary, it is Wednesday night, it is 8 PM, and welcome back once again to the BOTW What's Current stream. My name is Anthony Russell, here to take you through all the weird, wonderful, and wacky machinations of the National Ice Hockey League. Here in Great Britain, we focus on the National Division. We're focusing on the National Cup semi-final right now, but we have that is our bread and butter, that is our home port, but of course we are here to look at absolutely anything and everything from across the NIHL. That means the National Division as well as Division 1 and Division 2 in the north and in the south. Hi everyone, hope you're doing all right. Now, for those of you watching on catch up later, for those of you who are live, hi, thanks for coming back live as always, massively appreciated. For those of you on the catch up, and I know there are some of you who do watch this exclusively on the catch up, which is really cool to hear. It is currently Wednesday evening, the 4th of December, and as we speak, we are in the first period break of the first leg of the National Cup semi-final, the National League Cup semi-final between the Romford Raiders and the MK Lightning. It's currently Romford 1, MK 2. Some very, very well taken goals in both directions. Pretty a nice, well worked comeback as well from Romford into the bargain there. But ultimately, MK have bossed that first period pretty handily. Just having a look in the chat, Raiders, Lightning have had a poor away form, so the Raiders need to capitalise on that. MK is a tricky place to play, so Raiders need a comfortable lead going into the second leg. It's 9 PM. It might be 9 PM where you are. I assume you've probably got HV71 tomorrow, Mike, and that's probably why you're being a bit obtuse about your game watching. But yeah, either way, we are keeping tabs on bits and pieces. One thing I should say, massive thanks to the folk at the Raiders. The club have spotted me the stream to keep tabs on bits and pieces tonight, so massive thanks to them. They did actually invite me down to go to Romford this evening, but I had twofold issues. One, family commitments today already sort of predicated me not being there, which would have been quite problematic. I love hockey. I love not arguing with my wife more. And secondly as well, quite hard to do Southampton to Romford and back on a Wednesday night. Quite hard, but yeah, unfortunately anyhow, I was already booked before the day even started, as we can see movement on the ice at the Sapphire. So how this evening is going to work, of course, let's just quickly go through a little bit of the rigmarole, because you might be new to this, and if you're old, you can hum along, because you'll know the words anyway. Let's give you the little bit of housekeeping at the top of the show. bannersonthewall.wordpress.com, your number one source for all things related to the NIHL, or at least at the moment, my weird mini-series that's kind of going on, because despite focusing on the NIHL, I personally have been dragged slightly out of the NIHL sphere of influence for the last couple of weeks, and that's because I've been commentating on the Elite League, and that means that my Banners on the Road series, which kind of looks at the various games that I go to, I do an in-depth write-up of all the games that I go to. But the last couple of weeks, because I've been in the commentary box at Guildford, I've been doing this mini-series called In the Box Thinking, so you get a unique bit of insight into what it's like to commentate on the Elite League, what the games are like, and so on and so forth. So we've been doing that. That's on the website, as well as our Hockey Story series, long-form, in-depth pieces of content that go from the 19th century to the present day, behind the Iron Curtain, into war, and beyond. Of course, you can check out the latest piece, which was my interviews with Ross Murray and with Stephen Whitfield in a piece that we called When the Music Stops, which is about what it feels like, what you go about doing when you retire from British hockey. Plenty of stuff there. And of course, live Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. throughout the NIHL season here on YouTube for the What's Current stream. It's the best. It's the number one show that covers all 5 divisions across the NIHL. We don't just do national, we do the whole lot. Every game gets talked about, every game gets looked at in some way, shape and form. And ultimately, we're here all the time. And it means if you come here live, if you want to catch up afterwards, that's fine, you can do that. But ultimately, if you're here live, you get the benefit of joining in the chat. Questions, comments, thoughts, feelings, anything you want to throw in there as we talk through, please do come in and join in. It's fantastic to have you here. But of course, if you are going to join in with the chat, you must remember the golden rule, which is DBAD. Don't be a dick. Be respectful of other people's thoughts and feelings, and we are all going to have a fantastic time as a result. So there's a bit of early pressure from the Raiders at the Sapphire that we can see. Carol, yes. Shout out to Martin Grubb, coach of the Solway Sharks, for guesting on the Starcast. Of course, Martin, massive amount of history in North 1. Do make sure you go check out the Starcast with Craig Simpson, Carol, of course, who's in the chat, and John O'Langstaff. You lot need to have me on at some stage, just because I think it'd be really, really funny, and I'd be the most southern-based person, and I can just sound. It'll just be a nice contrast of accents, if nothing else. But yeah, so hi Carol for joining in. Massive thanks for coming in. Always happy to, and do regularly plug the Starscast. So and certainly know where my chicken parmo is baked, as it were. A chance here for the Lightning. There's a big save and a bit. Ethan James is now miles out of his net at the hash marks, which is a bit of a problem for him, but it looks like there's going to be a bit of a reset on the ice. Kev, good evening. Hope you are well. Right. As the game's going on, we're obviously going to talk about bits and pieces and make sure that make sure the bits and pieces are are going on. We're going to try and keep tabs as best as we can on what is happening. That's not going to sit there. That's going to have to sit there instead, as you all just heard the big thud as my phone fell. So one of the things let's get the big grumpy bit out of the way first, because I said there is a grump. We've got plenty to talk about. There's not been much in the way of player movement. There's actually a few people heading, a few bits and pieces. People looking at the naughty step, of course. Reece Cochran, Nathan Ripley, all been forwarded to DOPS, and as it is Wednesday night, we should hopefully get some news either late tomorrow night into Friday as to whether those two gentlemen will be suspended for any really long period of time. I mean, the real sort of bit of news out of British hockey, of course, has been the firing of Mike Flanagan. He's gone as the coach of the Manchester Storm in the Elite League, which doesn't hugely affect us here in the NIHL. But interesting to see, of course, Manchester, a team that has been playing a lot of young British players. Noah Kerarainen, of course, he's been injured, but he has played a fair bit. Connor Lee has obviously got a lot of ice time for Manchester this year. Zach Milton, of course, long tenured forward in the NIHL with Bracknell, Basingstoke, Romford. So it'll be interesting to see what Mike Morin, the interim head coach, will do with some of those young Brits up in Manchester. But one of the things I tweeted about was the fact that, and it was born out of what happened last weekend, which was the Bees playing an away game with 11 skaters, which I think we would all confess is not ideal. Now, the Bees have tried something different this year. They have a slightly shorter roster and have a lot of two-way players between them, between Streatham in NIHL 1 and the Cardiff Canucks in NIHL 2. That's obviously allowed people for us to see Preston Toombs, Josh Poole, Roman Cathcart, guys like that get National League ice time, and they have. We've got some argy-bargy. But we've also had the conspicuous by their absence, of course, are the top-end players for the NIHL 1 side that plays in the same rink as the Bees, which is the Slough Jets. Now, they have one player on a two-way agreement between the two sides, which is Ollie Hemmings-Mayer. Ollie Hemmings-Mayer, of course, former Basingstoke junior, was on a two-way between the Jets and the Bison before, with Ash Tate, when Ash Tate was coach of the Bison. And for a while, people have just really scratched their head about this entire situation, such as it is, between the two, and why the two clubs don't work together. And a chunk of that has just been down to the fact that they just haven't seemed to get on. Now, off the back of the situation with the Bees and then playing icing with 11 skaters in the second tier, which, of course, people said isn't right, shouldn't be happening. Now, the Bees actually put up a pretty good fight. I've been calling them the Bloody Minded Bees for a bit of time now, and it's entirely true. They stick around in games. Certainly Saturday's game, they probably could have, gave up the old BOTW adage of why defend when you can not defend. But ultimately, there was a lot of people on social media saying that it's wrong and it shouldn't be happening. And then Liam Morris, God love him, fired out into the universe and put a chunk of this on the fact that they're so short because, despite the fact that there is a team there, and Mo gave his reasons for why he feels that is that there is that Slough don't enter into a lot of a relationship in terms of player movements with the Bees. I don't think Mo's worded that very well, and I've told him so. But ultimately what happened is that this has obviously sparked a few bits and pieces, and sparked a bit of discussion. And the discussion I had as well with people both behind the scenes on what you would call either side of that equation, which is both the Bees and the Jets. I had a very interesting long conversation on social media with two, unfortunately nameless, very clearly Jets involved people who decided to not use their real name. Now, yes, as you know, all the social media for Banners on the Wall is Banners on the Wall, but it does also say very clearly that it's me, and if I'm hiding behind a username, I'm doing a really bad job of it being live on the internet every week for the better part of 3-4 years. But I had a really interesting conversation with them, and clearly, there is a bit of an impasse over a couple of things. Now, the one thing that's a goal. Oh, apologies, we do need to interrupt, is that we have a tie game at the Sapphire, and that is a lovely goal from the Romford Raiders, where they've pulled that out from behind their own end. There is a long stretch pass, and it looks like it's TJ Anderson who's got the equaliser. So 2-2 now with 24-23, that looks like is going to be the equalising goal there. So 2-2 at the Sapphire. Apologies, we'll return to where we were. Essentially, there appears to be a bit of an impasse in this relationship between the two organisations, not helped massively by Liam Morris and Christian Moore, who's playing right now actually for Romford. And Melman. Not helped by players of either side having arguments on social media, not helped by the Slough Jets equipment manager having a massive sort of rant about it as well. So having spoken to people on both sides of this, clearly both sides are wrong, because people cannot be having massive arguments about this on social media. And one of the things the folk from Slough kept saying to me is that, people expect us to just give the Bees players. People expect us to just give over our players. We work at developing them and then to just hand them over. The players should be able to choose where they go. I don't disagree. Should be up to the player why that happens. That's fine. I get that. My problem is that there is, and there has existed, and I'm aware of it, there has been an element of antagonism that has existed between the two organisations. Why, ultimately, are some of the best players for the Slough Jets needing to go the opposite side of the M25 to play when they can get National League experience on their doorstep? And ultimately it's because because they can't seem to work it in a way where there is a freer flow of players between the two sides. It should be better, and ultimately it is better for both organisations, given they're in the same place and have the same geographical footprint, to work together. What I don't like is in the south, where in the last 10 years we've lost the Isle of Wight, we've lost Basingstoke, at least for the time being, where the player pool has shrunk, is two sides at loggerheads not working together to better themselves, hockey in Slough and hockey in the south. Hockey is doing all right in the north. Yes, it will always be better to have more players. Yes, it would always be better for things to be to have for it to be cheaper to play hockey. But hockey in the north is ticking along. Hockey in Scotland is on the up at the moment, and why are we struggling in the south and the southeast? Invicta needs a coat of paint, but is trudging along. Guildford's players sort of hit a ceiling and then have to move. Oxford have had a pretty tough season of senior hockey, although the Rising Stars are doing okay. And there's little pockets of things going well. But we then have two organisations in the same building butting heads the entire time. Be adults. Work it out. Now I know, and my reporting, I can tell you this, I know the Bees have made efforts to try and do something about this. I can report that, and I can stand on that reporting. That's not to say Slough haven't made moves the other way, of course, but I don't have as much evidence as I'm aware of some of the stuff that I know the Bees have done. Okay? That's where that stands. And I'm sure, ultimately, nobody wants to be butting heads about things. Why would you want to have a frustration in your life that you don't need? Ultimately, one, if you're having arguments on Twitter about such things, you should probably stop. And like I said, I've had that chat with Liam Morris already. What I would say to Slough and the Bees is, one, probably have a chat with your players and get them to take off social media the various bits they put up. That includes the equipment manager. The second thing I would say is to apologise to each other for what's just happened and wipe the slate clean. And then the third thing to do is to think about what that relationship looks like, because it is silly. It's really silly. Ultimately, there's benefits here for both sides. The Jets can use the Bees as a selling point for encouraging young players to play for the Jets. The Bees let's remember, they're not in Slough by choice. Their ring got shut from underneath them. They had to go somewhere, and for some reason some people that I seem to find just expected the Bees to just disappear off the face of the earth, and I'm not sure why they should have done that. There is a relationship there that should be better, and it should work better. And I'm not saying that every single player from the Jets needs to go and play for the Bees. Actually, you know what? If the Bees have got 3 really good stay-at-home defensemen and you're a young stay-at-home defenseman, why shouldn't you look in other places? The problem, of course, is that if you want to play for Slough and you think to yourself, try and get yourself on a 2-way contract with Peterborough, for example, well, why wouldn't Slava Kulikov turn around and say, actually, you know what, we've got a development thing with the Nottingham Lions. If you want to be on a 2-way contract with Nottingham, you need to go play for a 2-way contract with Peterborough. You need to go play for Nottingham. You can't be in Slough. And ultimately, if you're the Bees, yes, they're approaching something. They're doing a very different approach this year. Bits of that have clearly worked. Bits of that have clearly not. But people sort of say, well, they've got relationships with Streatham and Cardiff. Well, yeah, because they don't seem to have a relationship with Slough. And that's nothing against Ben Painter. Most clubs would want a relationship with Streatham. They are multi-time, back-to-back, multi-trophy winning side. But the Bees are in Slough now. Why wouldn't you want a relationship with Slough? And so I'm not going to say that any one particular individual is wrong, and I'm not going to blame everybody for it. What I'm going to say from my side is, pack it in. Be adults. Find a way. Because ultimately, again, where is the benefit? To get to the reality you want, you need to work with the reality that you have. And you might be a Jets fan and can't understand why the Bees were ever let in the building. Well, spoiler alert, they're in the building. You can't do anything now. There is no exterminator to take away these Bees. They are there. And ultimately, actually, if people don't want the Bees in Slough, surely making them look better for somebody to want to help them and maybe move them away, wouldn't that be better than having arguments on social media and everybody butting their heads and being deliberately antagonistic to each other? Because nobody looks good out of it. You only look silly. This isn't the Oxford Union. There's no good and bad debating quality here. It's just daft. Ultimately, the players suffer long term because you end up walking into a situation that you don't need to be involved with and asked to pick a side that you shouldn't be asked to pick a side. Kids should be allowed to play hockey. Yes, there's politics in all forms of life and choices have to be made and choices come with consequences. But you should be looking to make the choices good and bad. And it's problem, and you have to, sometimes you have to deal with the hand that you are dealt. Both clubs are there. To not actively look at having some sort of practical relationship is not sensible. And ultimately, what they should do, if they genuinely are at a point where they say, we cannot work together, then don't touch each other. Don't snipe at each other on social media. Don't say things over the mic at rinks. Just ignore each other. Though really, if we're honest, we shouldn't have to resort to such teachers to kids in the playground mentality. For the betterment of hockey in the town, in the county, and the region, they could turn that rink at 2 levels into a powerhouse. At 3 levels, junior, Div 1, national. So much potential. I've said it before, that British hockey is haunted by its potential. And all people want to do is argue. Now, I ain't asking for a Christmas miracle, but I'm asking for a bit of thought. Bit of thinking. Some people, like I said, I know for a fact some people have tried to make steps to do better on this, but we're clearly not there. And clearly what happened during the week ain't going to help that. So firstly, both sides need to be the bigger person, and both should apologise for what's happened there. Sort it out. Silly. Should the players have the opportunity to go play where they want? Yeah, and we're literally seeing it right now. Because both Moore brothers and Luke Smittle are playing in the National Cup semi-final. More power to them for it. But from the outside looking in, there's no winners. Nobody's right. All it does is shoot both sides in the foot. And both sides could easily be making a lot of hay while the sun shines right now. We'll leave that where it is. Still 2-2 at the Sapphire with 8 minutes left to go in the second period. What have we got in the chat? Yeah, imagine the force of that rink with both teams that they worked out. Imagine the junior setup with so much coaching knowledge there. Exactly. So much better working together. Not going to name anyone on here, but there are certain people who do not want a relationship. And I would say to them, Berkshammer, and I can't tell who you are. I can see there's a picture, but I can see there's 2 people in that photograph, but my eyes aren't that good and that picture's really small on my screen. I would say to those people, if they have any courage of their conviction, and actually, you know what? Let's put that out there as well. Bees, Jets, whatever directors, whatever coaches, whatever. Come talk to me. On the record, let's have a chat. Why can't we make it work? I'll be there. Karen, I think you've walked in the middle of something. Lauren, not familiar with your name joining us at the party, so thanks for coming along, Lauren. Massively appreciate it. My Christmas miracle is a bees win. You know what? I think that might come sooner than you think. And you also know, and like I say, around this time, there's generally a little bit of movement going on. So some stuff might be happening in the background. Be prepared maybe for around Christmas, around New Year. I reckon a few players are going to end up in Bees jerseys that weren't there at the start of the season. So let's see what happens on that front. Can't name any names. I don't have any names on that front. But what I can say is that calling the form book, there's probably some stuff happening there. Either way, as these two sides are knocking lumps out of each other, and Romford have gone to the power play by the look of it. Actually, I can't see, and I haven't got the page up at the moment, so we need to sort that out momentarily. But we'll have a look at last weekend in the National Division. And actually, Romford, well, they did not have a particularly good Saturday evening. It started pretty well, and they were 3-1 up after 28 minutes, and Swindon won 6-3 because Swindon decided to wake up and scored 3 power play goals. Marco Pascali and Tyler Nixon making it 2-0 before Glenn Billing made it 2-1. Jack Cooper's goal at 27:52 had the Raiders 3-1 to the good, but then 5 unanswered goals from Aaron Nell's side. Glenn Billing, Chris Jones with 2, Ballant Picozzi and Reed Sayers has done doing the business there for Swindon. What's that saying there? It's a certain player who's expires soon. It'll be interesting to see where he ends up. I do, yeah, and I think we'll say the name. We'll say the name, Kev. It's Ralph Sesenis. Ralph Sesenis' ban should be up. He should be free to go as of, I believe, January 1st. And there is obviously going to be, he will obviously be somebody potentially worthwhile looking at for for teams who need that option. I need to move that because I've just realised I'm covering the button that moves along the things. Really, really helpful. Telford's decent run comes to an end because they went up against Leeds, and Leeds do what Leeds do, which is just wallop their way through people. 4-0 up through Innes Gallagher, Matt Howlett, Matt Barron and Kieran Brown. Vlad Luca pulling a goal back before Jordan Buesa put the icing on the cake. A 5-1 win for the Knights. And then the Bees and the Dogs decided, like I said, it's the old adage, why defend when you cannot defend? 8-6. What a ridiculous game this was. If you haven't checked out the highlights, it's the Joe Scuts one-man show on this one. And what a ridiculous set of highlights this was. 4 goals for Marcel Balach, 2 for Dom Gibai for the Bees. They score 6 and still don't win. Should say, though, the game-winning goal, and congratulations to him for a first senior goal, or at least a first Steel Dogs goal, for Jacob Brammer being assisted by his brother Jack. That was a pretty, even if you're a Bees fan, you can probably rectify yourself to that as an incident and that happening. So plenty, a nice moment if nothing else there. What a game, says Chris Callahan, Blue Line Photography. Bees photographer, do go check out Chris's work. Rumours are to send us back at Phantoms. I mean, it's not unreasonable. Slava got a lot out of Ralph's. Burke's Hammer, last 3 weeks at home with only 2 lines. Bees have played very well. If we can get the injured players back, add a couple in January, we will be competitive indeed. The bloody minded Bees, as I've been calling them, but ultimately Sheffield get their way to an 8-6 win in that one, and ultimately it doesn't matter how many you score or how many you concede as long as you win at the end. The Lightning, of course, who are who had put themselves into a pretty decent position in that first period here tonight, are 4 winners at home against the Solway Sharks as the first of that home weekend. 2 from Ross Venus, as well as Dylan Lawrence and Max Stewart. Lewis Young spoiling the shutout for Jordan Headley with 3 and a bit minutes to go. The Lightning at home, they're a different breed, and we all know that they are. Bristol then, managing, who've really, really picked up in the last couple of weeks. They appear to have found the way to make it work. Like we said at the beginning, we said it a lot here, at the beginning of the season, Bristol were awful, were genuinely terrible. And they have suddenly, the light switch has come on. And one of those things that seems to have come on was attracting Jay King away from South 1, where he'd won the playoffs last year with Chelmsford. And Jay King scores a goal, which was a very, very rare occurrence his last time in the National League. He's got 3 points already this season for Bristol, which is pretty impressive. Bailey Harewood, 2 from Tanner Butler, 1 from Elliot Lewis and 1 from Jay King in regulation for the Pitbulls. Johnny Corneal with 2, Emil Svek, Lee Bonner and Bobby Chamberlain for the Seahawks. And it goes all the way to the shootout. But the Pitbulls win and Hull lose again. Look at that big block of red above the Seahawks name there. 4 losses and an overtime loss. 1 point from their last 10 by the end of this game. Terrible, terrible stuff from Matty Davies' side. They desperately needed some sort of respite from that. Heading into Sunday then, and, well, the Lightning, who have been 1-0 and 2-1 up in this game, and have been pegged back to draw games. Well, they end up throwing this one away. Corey McEwen, Dylan Lawrence and Martin Susters had them 3-1 up. A Joey Coulter goal for the Sharks. And then the Sharks pull their way back in. Olivier Arsenault and John Dunbar taking it into overtime. And then it's Arsenault's second of the night. The all-import trio there for the Sharks. Arsenault from Dunbar from Gardner at 60-48. Solway beat MK in the Shark Tank, and it's a pretty big result in the context of the playoffs, especially as well with Telford's results this weekend and the Sharks having games in hand over Tommy Watkins' side. Raiders though came into tonight off the back of a pretty impressive win. As you can see there, not great results for Romford in the league recently. 4 points from their last 10, whereas Bristol had started to get themselves on a little bit of a roll, but Romford doing the business at home, the perfect tonic heading into tonight's game in the Cup. With MK on the attack at the moment, he says. Andrew Schufelt with 2, a hat-trick from Sean Miller and a goal from Brandon Aliff for the Raiders. Barry McKenzie, Elliot Lewis and Nick Price. Oh, goal for the Raiders! The Raiders have scored. It's 3-2 to Romford. We're just going to have a quick look at the replay here as we can see on the stream. And another one, well, that's been kicked back to the point. The man's had his pocket picked. And I think that's Miller. It's hard to tell, actually. The camera in Romford is so far away, it's impossible to tell. And, of course, I don't have the volume on. But Romford, at 35-58, having been 1-0 and 2-1 down, now lead the MK Lightning by 3-2 here on the stream. Huge for the Raiders if they can find a way to win this first leg. Putting MK on the back foot as much as possible is definitely a good idea. Either way, back to Sunday's games from the National. Beast have just released their Christmas jumper, but there was only 11 on sale. Sorry, I had to say it. Ha ha ha. Let's just go there. And then finally, the dam breaks for the Hull Seahawks. They win again, eventually, but they win by 6-3 against the 11 skaters of the Bees, as we mentioned. Gabai, Balaj, and Mog, three of the old campaigners for the Bees, with the goals for them. 2 goals for Bobby Chamberlain as well as goals for Lee Bonner, Johnny Cornell, Emil Svek, and a 59-59 goal from Owen Bruton, is obviously going to be part of the GB under-20s. But yeah, Hull finally getting themselves out of the ruts, but of course it doesn't mean anything if they then immediately go and lose again next time out. And then Sheffield, who scored 8 goals the night before, averaged 4 goals on the weekend because they got shut out in Peterborough. Sheffield confuse me so much. They've actually played really well recently as well. As you can see, they're coming into the game. They had a pretty good run of form, and ultimately then go and just drop a goose egg in Peterborough. Ferrara, Spears, Huff and Mitchell King with the goals. 4-0 by the end of the third period. And then, of course, Peterborough. They don't have to, managing out a game at 4-0 going into the third period. That is the bread and butter of Slava Kulikov hockey, and we all know that. And then finally, having been bitten by a lot of late goals this season, I was there when Hull scored inside the last 2 minutes with the netminder pulled, and we remember them losing inside the last 10 seconds to Sheffield. Swindon finally do it to somebody else. Mitchell's still sulking. Swindon finally do it to somebody else and score inside the last minute to steal the game. Telford 3-0 up through Rhodes, Mitchell King, Harry Ferguson and Tom Byrne. And Swindon score 4 unanswered goals. And Aaron Nell on the power play, Billing on the power play. And then Edgars Bebris ties the game before Aaron Nell at 59-25 steals one in the Battle of the Cats in Shropshire on Sunday. Which means we'll have a quick look at the National Division table. Of course, most teams in and around the 23-24 game mark. Telford, though, on 25 points. A 0-point weekend for them, which, given the fact they are only a point ahead, they are now a point behind, Solway, with 3 games more played, and Bristol are a point behind with 2 games in hand. It's looking a bit precarious for the Tigers. They obviously their new imports have been going absolute gangbusters, but they can't do everything themselves. They do need to win games as a team, and ultimately Solway have pulled themselves back into the playoff spots off the back of getting 2 points out of the MK Lightning, even though they lose the balance of the weekend. MK, though, atop. 35 points from 23 games, but Leeds, with a game in hand, could draw level on points when that is played. Sheffield, after their 2-point weekend and their wild lurch from brilliant to bizarre, are in third place, 30 from 24. Swindon up to fourth, 29 from 22, followed by Romford, who have 28 points. Peterborough 26, Hull 25, who finally back in the winning column, and then, as we said, the Sharks on the inside. of the playoff race. Telford, Bristol and the Bees on the outside looking in. The Bees now 5 points adrift of Bristol, and 5 points adrift of Bristol having played a game more. Lots of arm waving. It appears something is going on. It appears Romford are heading to the power play. The hope made it worse. I'm so sorry, Karen, but we have to talk about it. Don't worry, we'll get to the other Telford side soon enough. Of course, the fixtures. This is happening right now. Romford are leading by 3-2 at the 38-32 mark at the moment. And then we'll head into Saturday, this coming Saturday. And, well, the Bees, they get no reprieve. They're at home to Leeds on Saturday, and that is going to be very hard this coming Saturday, the 7th of December. Hull take on Romford. We'll see what sort of Raider side they get. As the Raiders bat away an MK attack. MK themselves, they're at home to the Bristol Pitbulls, looking to avoid a banana skin there against a side that started to find its feet a little bit. Peterborough versus Telford, and then Swindon welcomes Solway to round out Saturday night's action. On Sunday then, Bristol welcomes Solway. Another long Sunday journey for Martin Grubb's men. They must wonder what they need to do in terms of the fixtures. The latest instalment of the Nell Classico will take place at Ellen Road, the Leeds Knights and the Swindon Wildcats. Romford take on Peterborough. Sheffield take on MK. That could be a very interesting game. And then Sunday evening, of course, Telford at home. They take on the Hull Seahawks. Tomo injured in Saturday's game, broken. Not broken what? I think it's his hand, isn't it? Waiting for surgery, I believe. Oh no, that's just what you don't need of him. But you've still got Henderson, and between him and Ferguson, you've got 2/3 of what's been a pretty productive line. So hopefully you'll be able to get something out of that. So we'll pull back into the full screen for a minute. Questions, comments, thoughts, feelings, anything else you want to chuck in as we just keep tabs at the moment. So like I say, we're just heading inside the last minute. Romford on the power play at the moment, although that's a turnover. MK in short-handed. And, well, the net's off. I don't know whether anybody scored. No one's doing anything at the moment. MK obviously think they've probably scored at the moment. I will move slightly back from the screen. Let's just turn this up slightly. We won't put the volume on just because we don't obviously want to cause any sort of issues with copyright bits and pieces. I think there's going to be quite a lengthy discussion here because whether the puck has crossed the line in the act of the goal coming off at the moment. MK are faking it till they make it. Unsure what's happening here. So no goal is the call on the ice at the moment. Obviously we've got people lurking around. Let's just see what happens here at the moment. So of course, 17 seconds left. So we're at 39-43. So just at the end, we beat Leeds at home last time. You did, Lauren, yes, and it was probably one of the surprise results, along with the sort of Solway beating MK, probably quite a bit of a shock result of the season. And I think that's the frustrating thing with the Bees, is that there's clearly a very kind of having a backs to the walls mentality, particularly when you're a lower end side, can be really, really powerful because sometimes there is no bigger motivator and no bigger generator of talent and momentum than a chip on your shoulder the size of a county, right? And I think of like a player like Will Stead. Like Will Stead on any other team in this league at the moment would be a third or fourth line grinding away guy. And he's been given an opportunity to play up the lines and he's really doing a lot with it. I like, but obviously, lacking some of those depth guys, lacking Hallam Wilson, lacking Josh Smith. It's just, something that is really, really, is just killing the Bees at the moment. And also just the lack of availability of some of their two-way guys. I mean, Josh Poole has been fantastic. Goal is given. 3-3 in Romford after that goal has been given. That is a big, big decision to give few seconds from time in the period at the end of the second period of a cup semi-final, one that probably we'll go back and have a look at. We'll probably get some replays. Obviously, you can see you'll see on the replay and the highlights when it comes out. Pretty, it's one of those things that it's been very, very hard to call, and the officials need to make a decision, and they've clearly made a decision. 3-3, we are tied, and that's a short-handed goal for MK. take MK to penalty shots, beat Leeds, and get throttled by Bristol. But that's what Bristol do. I was, I watched Bristol win in Slough, and it's not, it's not sophisticated hockey by any stretch of the imagination, and it's not world beating. But they find a way to make it work. It's ugly, but the Pitbulls need to make it ugly because they don't have as much top end talent as the other teams. It's quite a large bench, but it's not necessarily deep talent wise. Is their issue at the moment. And the Bees, and like I say, sometimes if you're a team like the Bees, it's easier to play against a team that's a bit sort of slicker because you can see what they're doing a bit better. If Bristol don't know what sometimes I've watched games with Bristol where I'm not sure they know what they're doing from one shift to the next. How do you plan for the team that doesn't plan is one of the ways of it. End of the second in Romford, 3-3, which on the balance of the 40 minutes is probably fair. Romford appears to have had a much better second period by the look of it. So MK edged the first. Romford have come back and have edged that second. So 3-3. Probably fair. I think I can feel Karen's hope that makes it worse bit reverberating back around our heads behind us. But yeah, awesome. One thing we will do very quickly then, as we're in the period, just as we're talking about scores, because the man, the myth, the legend himself did email them to me. So I'll very, very quickly pull them up because, of course, he can't be in the chat. So Andrew Day, being Andrew Day, has emailed me, and I've just winged that around so you can't see his address, his email address, but he has sent me through the bits and pieces from the WNIHL. So before we get on to the rest of the NIHL, let's quickly go through these scores as we're in the break. And of course, the big game at the top of the WNIHL Elite League last weekend. Last year's top two, the Queen Bees and the Solihull Vixens, went head to head, and ultimately advantage Solihull when it comes to the WNIHL Elite League title at the moment. Queen Bees 4, Solihull 9, the final score from Slough last weekend. 2 goals for Catherine Gale and goals from Lydia Endicott and Estelle Ip for the Bees. Goals for the Solihull Vixens, 2 from Robin Mullin, 2 from Jodie Alderson-Smith, 2 from Laura Horwood, and goals from Alicia Potts, Katie Henry and Peyton Fincher. Kingston made the long trip down to Guildford, and they come away with a win. Guildford Lightning 2, Kingston Diamonds 5, the final score from the Spectrum last weekend. Beth Hill and Sam Payne were the goals for the Guildford Lightning. Mia Forbes, Lydia Lutwich, Anya Kadievich, and 2 from Kiana Tate for Kingston. Whitley Bay had an even longer trip. They went from the northeast right down to the capital to take on the Streatham Storm, and they also got the away win. Streatham 1, Whitley Bay 2. We don't have details of the Streatham score, unfortunately, so if anybody knows that, please do stick it in the chat. But 2 goals for Casey Trail doing the business for the Whitley Bay Beacons on that occasion. Andrew also noted here that because of the Women's Olympic qualifiers, they are coming up not this weekend but the weekend after. So because the Women's Olympic qualifiers will be held on, the games are on the 12th, 14th and 15th of December at Ice Sheffield. If you're in and around there, definitely do go and check that out. So as Andrew notes here, due to the Women's Olympic qualifiers, no elite games until the 21st of December, and there is only one game before Christmas, which will see the Queen Bees take on the Guildford Lightning. Though that is all Andrew has sent me in the immediacy when it comes to the women's bits and pieces from the WNIHL. So a massive thank you, of course, to Andrew. And if you're wondering why we're talking about the WNIHL scores here on the What's Current stream, and you think to yourself, wait a second, women's hockey, well then head on over to bannersonthewall.wordpress.com, where Andrew has written your WNIHL primer for NIHL fans. Find out what women's team plays in your rink, what division they are in, and the sort of opponents that they will be taking on. Find out and hear from GB Internationals, as Andrew gives you a bit of a rundown of some of the action that you can expect to see when you go to a women's game in this country. I have not done the job I could have done and would like to have done from covering women's hockey. So the fact that Andrew is kind of stepping up and helping out, kind of broadcast stuff about the women's game, massively helpful to help him make the megaphone louder, as it were. Make sure you check out all of Andrew's bits and pieces. Andrew Day 111 on all of the various social medias, and if you search him on Facebook, he's got like a hockey page there as well. And I noticed, having written for me, he's down a little bit of a write-up of action that he saw the past weekend as well, which is awesome to see. He did a brilliant job on the WNIHL primer piece, so the fact that getting somebody else writing awesome. Really enjoy it. Always great to see. Either way, 8:45, and we know that we are in the period break, so it is time for us to have a quick look through the rest of the... Oh, it's also going to help if I press the button. Let's do that. There we go. Come on. Oh no, what's happened here? That's not come up. I know why that's not come up, and also I need to put it on the right thing. If I do that, and then I do... Is that going to work? If I put it back on there. There we go. It's on South 2, so we'll swap it to North 1. It's the only technical thing that hasn't worked this week, so we will take that. I don't ask for much. But yes, plenty from Divisions 1 and Division 2 of the NIHL this week, as we will try and bash through bits and pieces. What I am going to do very quickly though, let's just turn that back on and just make sure that we're keeping tabs on what's going on. What's going on with bits and pieces. Let's just lay that there so we can keep tabs as we're going on. Either way, North 1. And as we can see, Hull lose again. And not only do they lose at home to the Nottingham Lions, which is a bit of a shocking result that I think a few of us won't have seen coming. And also 4 goals unanswered for the Lions, and not even an empty netter. Connor Lewis and Richard Hagar putting the Jets 2-0 up before goals from Alish Padalek, James Mather, Jordan Wright and Tyler Summerton give the Lions a rare away win. And all the only penalties the Lions took were Liam Morton-Shaw having a fight because he had a fight with Ethan Daintith during the game. Pretty impressive from the Lions as well, given they are known to take some penalties. Also, the Deeside Dragons back to winning ways in a shocking turn of events. Jake Witkowski scored, but also Jakub Hayek scored as well, along with Charles Phillips and James Parsons. Lewis Swaffield with the lone goal for the Scimitars in this game. Been a bit of a wonky season for Deeside, but you've got to pick up the wins where they come. Billingham have with their 2 losses on the season, obviously losing to Blackburn last weekend, they returned to form by walloping Solihull. Solihull's longest trip of the season, and definitely one they probably want to forget. They lose by 9-4 against the team that is top of the league. 15-2 record for Billingham so far. 2 goals from Chris Sykes, 2 from the captain Michael Elder, and goals for James Moss, James Helens, Sean Galloway, Lucas Dowell and Ian Brown. Ian Brown with a 5.9, Chris Sykes with a 5.9, Elder with a 6.9, Matt Maurice, Dan Mulcahy and Nicholas Otterson with 2 goals for the Barons in this one. 9 goals and 47 shots for Ben Lee, a night to forget in terms of the stats. Another one where people decided, why defend when you can not defend? And the Leeds Knights, well, they give Blackburn a bit of a run for their money, but ultimately come up short as the Hawks win by 7-5 at the Castle in a game with just 4 minutes of penalties and no penalties called until after the half-hour mark. As we can see there from the numbers, Harry Exley is getting the first penalty of the game at 35-12. Crazy. But either way, yes, another big win for the Hawks. They look to keep pace. And a hat-trick from Adam Barnes in this game. 2 goals as well from Aaron Davies, Jacob Lutwich and Andy McKinney with goals there. But a 4-point night for Lutwich, a 5-point night for Barnes and a 3-point night for McKinney. Productive night on the scoreboard for the Hawks. Edgar Zvengis, Harry Exley, Ollie Wag, Michael Daneko and Owen Dell with the goals for the Knights in this one. Harrison Walker's facing 60 shots. After springing a surprise the previous weekend, the Widnes Wild, well, they cannot repeat against the Whitley Warriors. Whitley make the journey over to Merseyside and win by 4-1. Goals for the lone goal for the Wild coming from Joe Howie, Owen Yarrow, and a hat-trick from Phil Edgar doing the damage for Tony Hand's side in that one. And then Nottingham and Hull reversed, went about face, and this game was, as we can see from some of the penalties called, it was testy, it was interestingly officiated at times. The Lions will feel a bit hard done by here, but ultimately Hull can't win at home, but do win away. They win by 3-2 in this one. Goals from the Lions from Tyler Summerton and Alish Padalek. Reece Edwards with 2 for the Jets. Ethan Daintith with the other goal for the Jets in this one, and a bit of a crazy one for the Lions. No Lucas Sheldon because he was away with the Panthers. All other netminers unavailable. So Vinny Graziano from Peterborough's NHL 2 side steps in between the pipes, takes the loss, but a pretty impressive performance from the young man, making 38 saves in his first outing in North 1. Zach Brown, 28 from 30 for him at the other end. So this upcoming weekend then in Division 1 North, 6 p.m. at Blackburn, they take on Billingham. Huge game, and the Stars will be looking to avoid their second defeat against the Hawks in the space of 3 weekends. Solihull take on Widnes at 7 p.m. at Hobbs-Moat Road, and Leeds take on Sheffield in the Battle of Yorkshire, 7:30 p.m. this Saturday night at the Castle. On Sunday the 8th of December, 5 p.m. face-off over in North Wales for the Deeside Dragons and the Leeds Knights. Billingham welcome Blackburn back to the Forum at 5:30 p.m. on Sunday. 5:30 as well for Hull versus Whitley. That could be a very interesting game. And then, well, they've got another game against them. They had one against them recently and lost. Can the Nottingham Lions get some revenge at home? 7:20 on the small pad at the NIC against the Solihull Barons. If we head back just up to the top, then we will pull out the league table from North 1, and it's still advantage Billingham, 9 points clear of Blackburn. But Blackburn do have a game in hand, but ultimately Billingham still very much in the driver's seat. And Hull, well, they play 3 more games than Blackburn. Yes, they're only a point behind, but ultimately it's the Stars and the Hawks currently really clashing for that league, for that North 1 title. Whereas in that last playoff spot down the bottom, Leeds and Sheffield level on points, and the Knights with a game in hand as they look to make the postseason at the first time of asking. Widnes, well, they're pretty firmly at the bottom with only 5 points from 16 games. In the knockout in the cup in North 1, nothing really decided. Nobody's officially qualified from Group A, which currently sees Deeside top, and Billingham having only played 4 games in the cup so far. So nothing is confirmed there. Blackburn and Hull are confirmed out of Group B, but it is not confirmed who will be first and who will be second at the moment. Therefore, meaning that we have to just sit and wait as it comes out on that one. But somebody will be the winner and somebody will be the loser there. He says, just quickly checking. Hope Tom Brealey gets suspended. Well, as he wasn't caught, I'll be interested to see what comes out of Dops on that one, Dylan. As you say, I mean, you were commentating on the game. I was watching it. It wasn't a great hit, all things considered. So hard to guess what Dops will say. But such is the nature of things. These things are always a little bit tricky to guess at times. In South 1 then, and well, heartbreak against Stretton the other week for the Slough Jets, but back in action, and they get a result down on the South Coast. A 4-1 win for Lucas Smithill's side over the Solent Devils. My grumble about them earlier aside, this is a really, really good hockey team. They are very exciting. You should definitely try and watch them if you get the opportunity to do so. Cam Buckle did have the Devils ahead early in the second period, but then 4 unanswered goals from the Jets. 1 from Christian Moore, 1 from Sebastian Moore, and 2 from Luke Smithill doing the business there. I'm just looking at some messages. Apologies there, because something had flashed up about Saturday, which I will talk about momentarily once we got through this. Also, just need that to turn around. There we go. Romford have been a bit of a surprise package in South 1 this season, but not even they can stop the monolith that is the Streatham Redhawks, and a tough night at the office for the Buccaneers at the Sapphire as the Redhawks rock up and roll out with an 8-1 win. The lone goal coming for the Buccaneers coming from Shay Woolmore as we scoop down. A hat-trick for Danny Ingoldsby, 2 for Aidan Doughty, 1 goal for Ryan Watt, 1 goal for Henry Aitken, and 1 for Tomasz Shkokan for the Redhawks. As we said, Woolmore, quite a short-benched Buccaneers side as well, all things considered. You can see the difference there as we look on the numbers. Max Van Mullen, 8 goals and 46 shots. A tough night for the young man who's been pretty impressive so far. And of course, if you like our fixture graphics, Max makes them. So we'll definitely always back our boy, but you can only do so much against a team like Streatham, who are just absolutely stacked to the gills. Also stacked to the gills, the Chelmsford Chieftains. They had the longest journey of their season so far, down to Cardiff Bay to take on the Fire, and Chelmsford do what Chelmsford do. They were behind early, inside 3 minutes, thanks to a goal from Rob Price, but ultimately Chelmsford just smashed their, and it was 2-1 at one point as well, Bailey Hine Pitcher with the other one, but Chelmsford smashed their way through. Halton Barnes Garner with a couple of goals, 2 for Alan Lack, and 1 each for the Bartlett boys, Cam and Grant on that one, getting their 3 points off the weekend. Jordan Laudier only facing 19 shots in goal. Ben Scanlon faces 53. Into Sunday then, and the Jets get the full 6 points, the maximum on the weekend, with a comfortable 5-1 win at home over the Oxford City Stars. Luke Smittle, Jacob Soper, Carl Bradburn, Christian Moore and Aaron Edworthy with his first goal of the season on the score sheet for them. Oxford getting Oxford's lone goal coming from Casey Wilson, who only a second goal of the season, but I've been quite impressed with Casey Wilson when I've seen bits out of him. All things considered, just looking at there, Nate Gregory faces 11 shots, and there is Oxford's problem as Ross Miller makes 53 saves. Can't do that. Oxford need to put more pucks on net, but ultimately it's a good Jets team. Defence is what it is. Local derby and a tough weekend for the Buccaneers. No points for Jason Buckman's side and a 4-2 win at home for the Chelmsford Chieftains. 2 goals from Grant Bartlett. There are 2 goals from Cam Bartlett, 1 from Grant Bartlett and 1 from Sasha Maltsev. Woolmore getting his second of the weekend for the Buccaneers, and Donald Campbell with the other goal there. Like I say, just a bit of a tough weekend for the Buccaneers, but they knew it was going to be like this. Another pretty impressive performance from Max Van Mullen, 44 saves in the loss there. Jordan Laudier, though, only faces 12 shots. You're just not going to win. And also another decent performance from the Cardiff Fire, but again, no points. They lose the local derby as they cross the M4, across the water up the M4 to Swindon. I'll get the words out of my mouth eventually. But Swindon win by 4-2 in the end. The empty netter from Jay Warren sealing the deal. That was his second of the night. Other goals for Swindon coming from Luca Kirk-Brown and Ollie Stone. Ewan Davis and Lewis Stevens with the goals for the Fire in this one. Another impressive performance from Ben Clark-Leach and Ben Scanlon. Both guys have had to put in some real shifts this season. Streatham won in MK. You'll forgive our shock and surprise at that one, but credit to MK. They don't ever stop skating in spite of some quite insurmountable odds. Cole McCluskey with the lone goal there for the Thunder. And we'll just check down there. So 2 from Preston Toombs, 2 from Ben Painter, 1 from Ethan Lane, 1 from Roman Cathcart, and a hat-trick on the night from Aidan Doughty. And the Red Hawks have 81 shots on Aaron Burton. Ouch. Dylan Phillips gets the full 60 minutes in this one, so good to see him getting some ice time. He concedes 1 on 14. This upcoming weekend, in South 1. Not many games on either day, really. Only 2 on Saturday. A chance for the Buccaneers to return to winning ways at the Sapphire. They take on the Oxford City Stars at the 5:15, and at 5:30 on the High Road, the Capitals go head to head. Streatham take on Cardiff. Sunday at the Hangar, 5:45 PM for the Slough Jets and the Romford Buccaneers. 6:15 at the Ox Pens. The City Stars are a pretty tough weekend away in Romford, then home to Streatham. And Milton Keynes host Solent. That is at 6:45 PM at the Thunderdome. Quick look at the table. Slough, well, they're top at the moment. 17 games played, 45 points. Streatham 3 points behind with 2 games in hand. The issue being who those games will be against, because if they ends up being, I'm not sure off the top of my head, if it's against Streatham and Cardiff, it's a different prospect than if it's against Chelmsford and Romford. As we can see here as well from the Cup, the Red Hawks are confirmed as the winners of Group A, and then either Invicta or Solent will be the runners-up in that group. It's between Slough and Chelmsford who qualifies from Group B, but we could be facing either way. Streatham are going to take on either Slough or Chelmsford in the semi-finals of the Cup. Into North 2. And Karen's ears will prick up at this point, bless her heart. We'll get to them eventually. A good win for the Kingston Sharks, their 5th of the season, as they beat the Nottingham Lions 2 by 6-2. Nottingham were 2-0 up, though, in this game after 7 minutes. Before the 6 unanswered goals from the Sharks, including a late power play goal from Tom Humphries, his 15th of the season for the Sharks. As we mentioned, Humphries with 1 goal, Eden Cooper, Kieran Robinson, Harry Clegg, Ellis Martin and Chris Hogarth with the other goals for the Sharks. Michael Barachowski and Adam Clark with the goals for the Lions. The Sharks out shooting their visitors by 47-35. And then, your eyes do not deceive you here. Yes, the Deeside Ducks lost the game. Can we appreciate the improvement for a second. Because every time we've talked about D-side recently, they've been absolutely walloped. 24-2, 12-1. It's not a win. And they're going to kick themselves as well because they were 2-1 up in this game and let the lead slip. But I'm really pleased for the D-side Ducks to be able to kind of get themselves into a point where they can have more games like this. But they still do lose by 3-2 against the Coventry NIHL Blaze, who are still playing for their cup lives at the moment. For D-side, Chris Jones and Stuart Cutting with the goals, Daniel Kent, Arthur Brooks and Tom Brooks-Smith with the goals for the Coventry NIHL Blaze. Yes, I did leave in mentioning this game on the Elite League commentary on Saturday because there you go. D-side Ducks mentioned during the Elite League broadcast because why ever not? As the teams are wobbling out back onto the ice, 35 seconds of power play left for Romford to start the third. Billingham Buccaneers, seemingly the team that's going to be there or thereabouts by the look of it, lurking behind Sutton and Telford this season. But a 7-1 win for them against the Sheffield Titans keeps them very much in that position. Jacob Sheehan with the goal for the Titans. Josh Nerty, Stephen Wallace, Ben Greenhall, Sam Dowd, Stuart Jackson, Lewis Hall and Tom Fraser with the goals for the Buccaneers in this one. Hayden Oates, as you can see, 7 goals on 65 shots. Ow. Telford then, interesting one here because Bradford have not had a great season. And you might have expected a bigger scoreline here, but the Bulldogs put up a pretty decent fight, all things considered. But as we can see, 13-0 for the Telford Tigers as they win by 5-3 in a game that Bradford got no penalties, which is pretty impressive, all things considered. Dara Sparforth with 2 goals, Kieran Furlong with the other goal for the Bulldogs, Rob Oxley, Ollie Hunt, Kyle Watt with a goal each, and 2 goals for Taylor Stanton for the Tigers as they and Sutton keep edging ever closer towards each other. And, well, both teams in action next Saturday. The Sting have the pleasure of the early face-off at the World's Most Versatile Arena. Kingston will be their hosts at 12 p.m. on Saturday, and then 6:30 p.m. at the Sky Dome. They lost this game last year, Telford, and it ruined their perfect record. Can the Coventry NIHL Blaze be the banana skin again for the league champions? On Sunday, then, 5 p.m. at Sheffield for the Sheffield Titans and the Billingham Buccaneers. Can the Titans get any measure of revenge? That remains to be seen. And then the other team that needs to get results in terms of the Cup is the Altrincham Aces. They play the D-side Ducks, knowing that potentially the results go their way, they could be playing themselves into a Cup semi-final place before too long. 5:45 in Manchester for that one. And then into South 2, and we start with the big headline. Peterborough Phantoms 2, the first team to qualify in the NIHL for any form of the playoffs. They were 11-0. And now they're 11-1. The Haringey Huskies pull off the big surprise win and win by 4-1 at Alexandra Palace to sink the perfect record of Nathan Pollard's side. Dan Martin with the lone goal for the visitors. Matt Hepburn, Robert Rayner, Corey Taylor and Stephen Woodford with the goals for Haringey. Given their recent loss to Guildford is a massive confidence booster for the London side. Dylan Phillips, 1 goal on 48 shots. A really impressive performance for him as Luke Clark returns to Alexandra Palace and lets up 4 on 26. It was a long journey for the Cardiff Canucks down to Gillingham to take on the Invicta Mustangs, and they come away with nothing. They get close in the end. Josh Paul scoring late, but ultimately not to be. And the Invicta Mustangs, who we know can spring a surprise when they want to, doing the business end. As we said, Josh Paul with 1 goal, Jaden Ford with the other 2 for the visitors. Jake Stedman, Anthony Baskerville, Ed Gibson and Sam Oliver with the goals for the Mustangs in this one. And then, finally, it has happened. Every team in the National Ice Hockey League across all 5 divisions finally has a win. The Bristol Pitbulls are off the mark at last. They are the last team, and it took them to the 1st of December to do so. But now all 51 teams in the NIHL have a victory under their belt. They beat the Lee Valley Lions in North London by a score of 5-4 in a game that, again, the Lions, they just struggled to hold a lead. 4-1 up at the end of the first period, and lose. They are going to kick themselves for this one, and eventually we may not want to see into the behind the scenes stuff because it'll mostly be swear words. Matt Ganas with 2, Tadja Allen and Raphael Girard with the other goals for the Lions. Sample, Joe Kakavale, Dean Baker, James Wood, and the game winner from the old campaigner himself, Ollie Schoen, and the Pitbulls finally get their first win of the season, and the massive monkey off their back. A 48 save performance from Alex Cole to do the business. Ethan Frayne lets up 5 from 62. As Romford are on a big attack here, and Headley's flapping, and they've over-egged the pudding and missed that. That's that though from Div 2 from last weekend. So the upcoming weekend then shows can Bristol make it 2 in a row. They are at home on Saturday at 4:15 PM face-off. And that is a save by Jordan Headley. Apologies, I thought someone had scored there for a second, but no. It's what have I missed there where it says it's 4-3? I blinked and missed something again. But yes, Bristol Invicta 4:15 at Cribbs Causeway on Saturday, 5:45 at the Riverside for the Chelmsford Warriors and the Haringey Huskies as the London side look to continue their good run of form. Oxford take on Solent in the battle of the second teams at 6:15 PM on Saturday at the Ox Pens. 6:30 then down in Cardiff Bay, and the Canucks face the Lee Valley Lions. That could be a really interesting game. The other game on Sunday, massive game in terms of the South 2 title. You can see it there in Peterborough. Phantoms 2, Guildford. Guildford, the only unbeaten side remaining in the division, but of course have got a fair few games left to play. As we can see there from the South 2 table, 7 games played, 6 wins in regulation, and 1 in penalty shots against Invicta for the Phoenix. So they have dropped a point, but they are undefeated still against a Phantom side that is 11-1. But Guildford could catch them if they win all their games in hand. The Phantoms go into that game, will be their 13th game of the season compared to the Phoenix's 8. The Phoenix and the Mustangs are already qualified out of Group 1 and they are set in their various positions. It's then just a matter from Group B of whether Peterborough or Haringey can do the business there. In terms of the Eddie Joseph Memorial Cup, there's been no games played in that since the 24th of November. Peterborough still leading the way. They have played 4 games. Everybody else has only played 2. Shoefrot from Sylvester from Yokoyama, 40-34. Thank you, Mike. I was probably so focused on what I was doing, so they managed to convert that power play, which is pretty huge. Let's have a look from Karen. 62 shots on goal, only 3 let in for the Ducks. It was quite a game, very close to the end. This will be Telford versus Bradford, close to the end of the third period. Not quite what was expected based on the last game. Bradford had their 2 ways, who haven't played much of them as of yet. First time I've seen Dara Spafford in the flesh. The lad is class. Their goalie Lowndes had a cracker of a game as well. Ducks had Gledhill in goal for the first time. Suspect that factored in, Mike. And as we see there, Mike's put it in the chat for us. Andrew Schufelt being the difference maker again from Sylvester from Yokoyama on the power play. So that early power play converted by the Raiders. And they now lead by 4 goals to 3. The question for Romford, can they hold on? We've done it. We've gone through every game of the last weekend in the National Ice Hockey League structure. I've had my moan about people not acting properly like adults, and the game is still going on. The door is open. Questions, comments, thoughts, feelings. Stick anything you want in the chat, as I will grab my water very, very quickly because my throat is getting really dry. There we go. Woo. It's hard work talking for a living. It really is. The other thing, of course, is my Saturday has now got very, very interesting. As you guys are sticking stuff in the chat that you want to talk about, as Romford attack here. The news out of Guildford that Saturday I will be on the call for the Guildford Flames and the Nottingham Panthers, and the Flames have decided to announce the jersey retirement of Paul Dixon. This alters my planning slightly for what I was going to say. So, yes, that's a thing. Ultimately, Paul Dixon more than deserving of the honour. Feels like it has come out of nowhere a little bit. I thought they'd probably make a bit more fanfare out of this, but apparently not. And I get the honour of calling the game. Such things always generally don't bode well for teams when they do that, but we will see what happens. Guildford ultimately did look a bit tired. Coventry are fun. Like, if you get the opportunity to go to an Elite League game, like, I mean, definitely go check it out because, like I say, it's good to get different perspectives on hockey. But man, if you enjoy the sort of weird chaos that kind of comes out of Hull, you'll really enjoy Coventry. Because they thrive on the chaos. They genuinely do thrive on the chaos. It is pretty hardcore, all things considered. Just keeping tabs on what's going on there. But yeah, what Mike said there, 2 bags with stickers making their way back to the UK, not just one. So Mike has basically filled up on those jars of that sort of like weird pickled herring that people eat for a bet, I assume. All things considered. But yes, weekend of the 14th and the 15th, I'll be back in the NIHL. It's looking more likely, just in terms of what's available nearby to me, it's looking like I'll probably be at Solent versus Streatham, only because the other option in terms of what's really available to me that weekend is Swindon versus Hull, which I've already done this year. And it's nothing against Swindon, but it is a bit, if I'm going to go back to I'd rather go see a game that I've not seen this year rather than a tie that I've already seen. As it were, I might have a look. I might have a look and see what else. Just double check that I've not misread anything. But there's not a ton of stuff immediately kind of nearby, and with it being quite close to Christmas, and also having done a lot of kind of sort of working at hockey, having a game that's 1, close to home, and 2, I can just kind of sort of kick back and enjoy rather than having to sort of drive a massive distance. Plans for the new year, though. I haven't planned properly any kind of excursion. I am going to go to Romford at some stage. I need to get that worked out properly. And I kind of want to go somewhere a little bit further afield. I don't know whether I kind of do I go watch like the Nottingham Lions and then come back on, go up and come back. MK with the breakaway. And that's tie game. That's 4-all. That's what the Lightning can do. And they can absolutely punish you on that one. The puck is behind Headley's net. And the pass across for the shot is an absolute hospital pass. And I think that's Rio Grinnell Park by the look of it. Has skated away and just absolutely sniped that past Ethan James. So we're tied at 4. I mean, we wanted an exciting game. We definitely got it. I still feel that Romford need to be winning this going into the second leg, though. Should come to a Swindon 1 game sometime. I want to come to a Swindon 1 game at some stage. But it's just finding when and where, and also where I've got this sort of run of games. So I'm a bit in and out for Guildford after this weekend. I've got the weekend of the 21st free because it was originally blocked out for some family stuff that I'm not sure whether it's happening or not because of other factors. I'm with the Flames on the 28th. I'm not there over immediately around New Year, and then after the 5th of January, my booked commitments for the Flames are done. The 5th of January is my last game, and then I'm fully back into an IHL. And then I have got some games booked out where I'm due to be joining Joe Scutts for commentary with the Bees. I believe that's happening at the moment. I need to double check with Joe. But so it's going to be booking bits and pieces in. I need to get to Guildford. I want to go to Romford at some stage, so I've done it. MK now back on the attack by the look of it. So it's just about getting that balance. And I mean, I've been to a Swindon 1 game at least because I was at the game in Oxford for it. But coming to a game at the Link to see that, it's just finding the right time. It's also finding the right game. Like, what would it be good to come and see? Because part of me wants to kind of... I've barely seen the Cardiff Fire over the last couple of years, but we've obviously missed that. And there's a penalty being called. And there's somebody down in it. It's an MK player down in a bit of a heap. By the look of it. But yeah, there's a bunch of stuff I want to kind of go and see. Like, people from Lee Valley said, oh, you should come to Lee Valley. I was like, well, I'm mucking around with the parking, to be honest. And there's some places that are just kind of a bit far away. And the deal I have with my wife is there and back in a night. So I need to... unless I kind of get, I can plan my excursions. Coventry, of course, is a different thing, and but yeah, so it's a little bit limited by not trying to have a massive argument with my wife because she's more important. But Solihull doable maybe in there and back in a night, but I need to find the right game to do that. Then I could see some North one, but maybe I kind of go up and have a look at sort of trying to do some stuff in. Nottingham is an option. I kind of want people in Billingham want me to go up to Billingham. Hull would be fun to go up to. I've not been to Hull for a really, really long time. It'd be quite funny to go up there and see people like Matty Davies and Joe Lamplow, Tommy Ralph, of course. I know who former Bison, who's obviously up there. So that'd be a lot of fun. But the plenty of. There's lots of options. I need to just get some headspace to actually just book it and do it. Worst case scenario, there is a weekend in March, and I think it's towards the end of March, where the Devils play on a Friday, and then the Canucks play at home on the Saturday. But it would just be about working that out. Yeah, I know your situation. Yeah, but yeah, there's a lot to be said about just kind of as the Raiders spoon the puck out of the zone on the power play. But yeah, it's just about kind of finding that, and like maybe. I obviously in the 23-24 season I went for Solway, and that's a long way away. Good save by Headley there with 1:10 left on the power play. So maybe if I do Cardiff's not quite as far, and if something went catastrophically awry, I could be home in a couple of hours on the train if the car died on its backside or something like that. So there's ways and means of doing it. I just need to find the appropriate way of doing it, I think, and I'll have that conversation with my with the good lady wife and try and figure it out. Maybe I need to take a week off from work at some stage, and maybe I can kind of build some stuff into that. So we need to figure it out. But also as well, if I end up kind of people want me to commentate in more places, that might become a factor as well. Feedback has generally been quite good so far. So just keeping tabs here. Runford doing all right in this power play. Still a little bit sort of messy, per se, but this possibly is tempered by having watched some power plays, some very, very slick moving power plays. Coventry's power play was ridiculous at the weekend. Oh, water good. Yes, other bits and pieces. Yes, In the Box Thinking, the latest episode is obviously out. I did record it. I've had the day off work, regular work, so I recorded that this morning and put it out this afternoon, so do go check that out. Really interesting game. Brynley Caps playing for the Coventry doesn't look out of place in the slightest. They're managing him really well. It would be great, obviously, if he was playing like 15, 20 minutes a night, but he's not ready for that to that level, and he's being used in a really, really sensible way. Was used on a line on Saturday with Zane McKenzie, who's kind of been in and out a bit of the lineup and has played on D and has played at forward for them. And he was also alongside Estonian international Morten Jurgens, who spends a lot of time. He doesn't get a great amount of 5-on-5 time, but does play on their power plays. He's quite a big physical unit, so they kind of use him in front of net, or they swap him out for Nick Seitz. So some options there in terms of that too. Right, as this game we're about nearly 10 minutes away from the end of this one. That power play has expired, and there's a massive open gap for somebody from Romford to skate into. I think that's the only criticism I'd have of this stream so far. And of course, they've made a massive effort tonight for the Raiders. It's just obviously, it's nothing they can do anything about. They're just really far back, and it's really hard to tell who's on the puck. Obviously, you've got people telling you for the most part, but. Even that, I don't know. I'd be really interested to get into the rink properly and stand in that position and kind of see it. So yeah, a bit of a weird one, but we've been treated to a really, really good game so far, 4-4, and a lot of fun on this one. But yes, apologies just because things are flying up on my phone. Let's get rid of that. But yeah, so with 10 minutes left, what do we reckon? Can Romford squeak a win? Can MK squeak a win? Either way, things on a knife edge heading towards Milton Keynes next Thursday night. It's looking like it's promising to be a really, really impressive game on this one. Some fair play. Folk in Romford appear to have turned up and turned out for it. Because I generally write for the Romford programme. I didn't write for the Cup semi-final just because it was all done at quite sort of short notice, and because it's Romford's first semi-final for quite some time, they made a point of doing a bit more of a focus on sort of the history of Romford in those kind of situations, which is fine. It's no big issue about that one at all. But my big problem, of course, is that I have to get my article to the editor by Tuesday for the following weekend. So if you're a Romford fan listening back to this after the fact, your article, your programme article, is Choose Your Own Adventure this upcoming weekend, and you'll see what I mean if you go to Romford's home game about just what I ended up having to do to make an article make sense this week. I had an idea and I ran with it, and because I get given free rein to write what I want, it's quite hard. Right. I think, because we've smashed through everything at breakneck speed because of the game, I think I will call last call, so then we can all just go sit back and enjoy the end of the game unharassed, as it were. So last call then, a little bit, maybe a little bit earlier than normal. Fewer games this weekend though, it feels like. Well, fewer games, only one piece of tech kind of didn't work and it was fixed really quickly. And I started pretty much bang on 8 o'clock rather than sort of giving it a couple of minutes for people to get in because of the game. So maybe that's generally, I think, why we're going to be a little bit early today. But like I said, last call, questions, comments, thoughts, feelings, as MKR buzzing around the net of Ethan James at the moment. Let's click some buttons, get rid of some bits and pieces that we don't need anymore. But yes, back to the NIHL soon enough. But all things considered, no bad thing. It'll be good to kind of be back to what I know, back to kind of travelling, hitting the road properly. It's been a lot of fun, and it's given me a lot to think about in terms of what I do in hockey with hockey going forward. But the certainly for the rest of 24-25, I kind of know what my situation is, which is quite cool, and I'm gonna get back into the NIHL, get back to going to games across the place. And like I say, for the weekend of the 14th and 15th, maybe I think that might be just the plan. Just pop down to the Gosport, ease my way back in, and also going to be a pretty good game. Solent and Streatham always put on some really, really good games. You know it's going to be pretty tasty, so that might be a really, really good start, all things considered. Right then, we will call it there. bannersonthewall.wordpress.com, your number one source for all things related to the NIHL and British hockey. Let's just shoot for the moon on that one. Join me on my journey through British hockey, Banners on the Road series, including our mini-series In the Box Thinking, with my insights and bits and pieces from inside the commentary box at the Spectrum at the moment, and then back to the NIHL before too long. But you've got like 13 and a half years worth of stuff. Have you seen a travel company doing elite weekend travel packages? I have. I haven't read it properly, though, is my problem. Haven't had the time. But yeah, so plenty of stuff on there in terms of game write-ups. Every game I go to, whatever country I've been to as well. Was in Berlin earlier this year. Wrote about that. That was pretty crazy. So the Banners on the Road series is for you if you like your in-depth game write-ups, as well as our Hockey Story series, long-form, in-depth pieces about a bunch of different things, talking to people of all stripes in hockey, as well as going back into the past from the 19th century to the present day, behind the Iron Curtain, into World War II and beyond, across a multitude of things, talking about retirements, becoming an official, being best friends and playing on opposite teams, all kinds of crazy things. Some of it's written, some of it's audio visual, plenty of stuff to catch up with there. The old BOTW podcast as well is there too, as well as your free to download game Dice Hockey that you can play with bits and pieces around your house. All we ask is if you download Dice Hockey and you enjoy it, please donate some money to Parkinson's UK. That'd be massively appreciated. But all of that is there. 13 and a half, nearly 14 years worth of stuff on the website. That is bannersonthewall.wordpress.com. Oh, Andrew Day's WNHL primer as well. Go check that out too. Facebook.com/bannersonthewall. If you like getting news through your Facebook feed, hit the like button. All the links and stuff go onto there. Good, quick way to keep up with stuff. X, Twitter, whatever we're calling it, is @BannersOTW. That's the best place to keep up with me and my rolling commentary on British hockey. We're on Blue Sky as well. Search for Banners on the Wall. We'll come up there. And also there's our virtual busking hat over at buymeacoffee.com/BOTW. This isn't behind a paywall or anything like that, but stuff costs, and it costs money to do things. So, like I say, it's a virtual busking hat. If you can chuck a couple of quid in, great. If you can't, then don't. If you haven't got the money to that, please don't spend money on stuff like us if you can't afford it. All we ask, if you don't want to stick some money in the basket hat, share an article, share the links and bits and pieces like that. Let's get some more eyes on bits and pieces. That'd be awesome too. Keep that algorithm hamster happy, fat, and fed is what I say. And then of course, there's here YouTube, the Banners on the Wall YouTube channel with interviews with our Detail in the Devil series with the Solent Devils, chats with the movers and shakers of British hockey, from directors of EIH to officials to club owners, coaches, the heads of NIHL DOPS. Nobody has done an interview with the heads of DOPS apart from here at Banners OTW, which is pretty fun. At the moment, but plenty of exciting things here on the YouTube channel. And of course, Wednesday nights, 8 PM, the NHL's best, first and only live show that covers every game of all 5 divisions. That's here at the BOTW What's Current stream, and even sometimes in the middle of the game itself. Massive thank you then for joining the party. Like I say, we're at the 5-minute mark left here. Somebody could be the hero tonight at the Sapphire. A massive thank you for joining me, and yeah, thanks for your support as I go on this sort of weird little journey into commentary again at the moment. It is massively appreciated. Be happy, and if you can't be happy, then please do wherever you are. Please do everything you can to please be safe. As my friend Scotty Was would say, take care of yourself and somebody else. For Banners on the Wall.wordpress.com, this is Anthony Russell saying stay safe, and so long until next time. Enjoy your hockey where you find it. We'll catch you back here next Wednesday night, 8 PM.